here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned, immaculate.
Hello and welcome. This is the C86 show. I'm David Eastaugh. As you know, we love a special guest. This week it is going to be the turn of the New York musician, filmmaker and actor. It's the one and only Jesse Hartman, who I spoke to very recently to find out more about life, love, poetry and all that other groovy stuff. Has been in lots of musical combos, including the 90s band Sammy, but then after that finished, formed the rock electro group Laptop, and they have been, were originally quite prolific, then they stopped, but then recently Jesse has got the band or the project back again and has released 2 singles and a third one about to come out in the autumn of 2025, a live show which is going to happen in October in London, and then the album in the new year. So you're going to find out more about that and lots of other stuff. Also, I will put a link to the website in the notes below, Laptop, so you'll be able to discover lots more stuff. Anyway, this is the interview, so sit back, relax and enjoy. After several minutes of interesting but casual chat, we get down to the exciting subject of the early formative years. Jesse, it's over to you.
Yeah, I grew up in New York and had an older brother who was going to CBGB's like in 74.
Right.
So I was getting all those records like hand delivered to me as a kid. So, I kind of like grew up on a diet of it's Velvet Underground, Lou Reed and Talking Heads and television and...
Because 74, punk really hadn't it was nearly, but not quite. I suppose you had the New York Dolls and Suicide in New York during that period.
Yeah, but, television and Richard, they were playing shows in 74, and my brother was literally going to each one of them and taking home the bootlegs to my house. So, like, I was really getting, like, this crazy dose even when I was, like, 4 or 5 years old.
Blimey, so, that is quite young to get the dose of early
and I
punk.
also, I love stuff. I was loving what I was hearing from the UK, so I was like a huge Gang of Four fan. I had the like Fast Product, like best of, so I was hearing the Mekons and all that kind of stuff. So I was really like a little encyclopedic kind of kid.
Yes.
But Lou Reed was like my favorite, and that kind of led to Bowie and Eno. So, I kind of like, I basically wanted to be Lou Reed. I grew up in Long Island, not far where he grew up. Similar parents, similar cultural background. So, like, I was really kind of tapped into that.
Yes. But not too. They didn't give you any electrodes to sort of sort your sexuality out, though.
No, I didn't get the electroshock treatment, but I passed that hospital every time I went to the city. So,
yeah. Blimey, Lou. I know. Well, he started. Well, I was a bit too young when he did Transformer, but obviously that's an album you get later. And then he did some sort of pretty naff things. And was it the album? Was it new? What was the one he did in the late 80s, which was absolutely amazing? It had the Last American Whale on.
Well, I know that the Blue Mask was such an important record for me.
It was the 89 album New York that he did, which was just, it had Romeo and Juliet, Dirty Boulevard.
I like that record.
The Last Great American Whale, which I just remember thinking, up to then it had been a bit hit and miss really with Lou, hadn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, there's like things that stand out, like Coney Island Baby and the Blue Mask for me. I love this record, New Sensations, which came out like right before that New York period. I think I was always very like generous towards those records. Like he could kind of do no wrong for me. But
no, absolutely. Yeah. I do remember he did was it something Sally I Can't Dance? Was that one of his?
Sally Can't Dance. Yeah, that record also was pretty important to me.
Yes. So when you were growing up, you were born 1970 then. So what
Yeah.
was your kind of other musical excitement at that time? Because mostly we get into sort of bubblegum pop in some way, don't we? Even because I had a brother who was 7 years older than me. This was during the 70s. So he like I went, wow, prog rock, this is amazing, because nobody at school was listening to this music. But I was fascinated with anything from Tubular Bells to Rick Wakeman to Yes and Genesis and stuff like that. So, but then, I also had my own sort of interest in sweet, like I said, all that glam period. I loved the Osmonds' Crazy Horses. I thought that was just rock and roll
Yeah.
right off the board, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I mean, I was, very young, and even, the Bay City Rollers had moments, but it was only in the 80s when I was hitting 16 and 18 that things changed again. But did you have any kind of other kind of musical moments that kind of fascinated you?
Well, where I grew up, classic rock was pretty like, you know, dominant. So I was kind of, I had spent a lot of time with the Doors, and that's kind of how I learned to play keyboards, was listening to Doors records uh, and the Stooges and T-Rex, and so I had my own little glam period.
Yes. So, what
Uh,
was your first live album, live concert you went to?
um, Talking Heads, Remain in Light. Uh, it was like the year before they did Stop Making Sense.
Blimey.
So I was
You-
14 or something. Yeah, that was a pretty good first show, I would say.
Yes, you did. You did sort of. That was quite. You lucked out on that one, didn't you?
That was pretty good, yeah. And then yeah, I got to see Lou, and I got to see, Elvis Costello, and that whole era of bands came through, obviously, and I the Clash. Um,
So, when
I
did
was
you
pretty
first go to like CBGB's or Max's Kansas City? Were they places that you frequented?
well, Max's was gone by the time I was around. CB's still going, and so like when you had your band when you were 16, you know, the audition at CBGB's was like the big thing you had to do, try to get through that wall.
Mm.
So I had these very memorable nights of auditioning at CB's with my high school band and then with my college band. Um, so that was really kind of an amazing experience. And now it's a clothing store. So
No, absolutely. Yes, it all.
I'm happy I got to experience it.
Yes. And then when you were you mentioned Elvis Costello and probably that's like post-punk period, but then when you were sort of a little bit older, getting towards that sort of 16-year-old self, there would be the indie pop explosion, hadn't there, of the UK, like the Smiths, and then we had the Cure and Susie and the Banshees and the
Yeah, I
Cult, the
saw the
Mission.
Smiths play around that time. I saw the Meat Is Murder tour in New York too. Yeah, I was listening to all that. There was a station called LIR where we were that played all that stuff, and so I got pretty influenced by that period, the Smiths and the Violent Femmes and REM, and uh, it's funny that, and then some electronic things around that time as well, which I think seeped into me. It didn't really come out of me till laptop started.
Yes. So were
Late.
people like Soft Cell, Human League, Depeche Mode, Cabaret Voltaire, did they come on your radar at all at that point?
We did, but I have to admit, I wasn't. I was a little bit anti some of that stuff at the time. Um, I think in New York versus London, it was like a little bit uncool sometimes to be into that side of things. Like guitar bands
Yes.
were more sort of coveted here. So it was only like when I left Sammy and I started Laptop, a lot of that stuff kind of came back to me because I had heard it 1,000 times, and so it was funny for me to kind of revisit that
Yes.
sound, and I kind of became like a master of it in a way,
Yes.
which is strange.
Well, it is strange because I mean, at the time, and music was very tribal during that period that I can remember. I
Yeah,
absolutely hated all that music. I just went, "That's new romantic stuff." I hate, it's not
right.
it's not very angsty and political. They're not really kind of on the left. They're sort of apolitical, possibly not even there. Perhaps they're on the right. I don't know. And it's all synthesized, so it's just dreadful. I mean, it's
Yeah.
really embarrassing. I should cut that last bit out, but I just thought, yeah, I didn't even like goth rock because I just, oh, no way. But now I
Well,
think actually
I
they're
felt,
great songs.
yeah, I felt the same way. I really, I was quite against all of that in a way. And then like, I don't know, I kind of swung back and kind of like learned to like love it again. And then started like bringing it into my own music.
So
And
did you listen to people like, I mean, I know I was really surprised when I came to America once and they were really big on A Flock of Seagulls. And I was thinking, why is this so popular? And they said, oh, it was on MTV all the time.
well,
And I was
that's
like,
the thing. Yeah, I mean, MTV was such a big deal here that you were seeing the Flock of Seagulls video, like
on the hour, every hour.
every hour. I mean, there were like seven bands that were just getting Haircut 100. It was just like all these bands were getting like pushed and pushed. So, but I didn't go out and buy those albums, but you were hearing it. It was like part of your childhood.
Yes,
But it was not something I didn't want to hear another Flock of Seagulls song, really.
ever.
But no, but somehow some of that stuff just kind of yeah, it got under my skin, and in a good way, it turns out. So
Well, it was
uh,
interesting because it kind of probably last month I did an interview with, is it Mike Howlett, and he produced that particular, album and that track, and yes, explained in not a great detail. He said it was really laborious to put that together because the band didn't really know, and the singer had a terrible voice, and he had to do all the work on it to make it happen.
right, right.
So then you kind of appreciate it, but then I listened to it and I thought, no, I still hate it. But I kind of appreciate that there's a lot of work that went into it,
Yeah,
and
well, a lot of those records sounded like a lot of work went into it. And I think that was one of the things that at the time was kind of a turn off for me. We like things that were like a little bit more off the cuff. And that's what led us to mm, when I went to college, that's when we were getting into Husker Du and Dinosaur Jr. and Sonic Youth and things like that. Like we were really moving away from
did you just
anything
buy everything on
pretty much.
ST
Yeah.
records? Was that your
I
go-to?
remember when CBGB's actually opened up a record store next to it. And that's the first time that I kind of saw those records. And it was kind of eye-opening. I was like 16, 17, and I was working in the city, and I would meet Sonic Youth in the restaurant I was working in and the film store I was working in. And that's when I met Richard Hell. Um, and by age 19, I started playing with Richard Hell.
Right. So when did you get a guitar, by the way? When did guitars come into your life?
Around 11 or 12.
Right. Were you
Uh,
quite a studious kid at this point?
I was a pretty academic kid. I was also kind of a jock. I was like good at sports.
Oh, blimey.
Yeah, I was a strange kid because I was playing all sides. I started playing piano when I was 7. Um, I had a very weird piano teacher who is now famous for being a I don't know if you've seen the movie Capturing the Freedmans. You know this film?
Vaguely.
I don't want to go down this road, but my put it this way: I had a notoriously criminal piano teacher who taught me my first rock song, "Riders on
Right.
the Storm." He ended up going to jail. I ended up becoming a musician. If you want to know more about him, you can see this movie, Capturing the Freedmans.
Oh, right. Is this about him then?
That movie's about him. This
Oh,
doc,
right.
it's a well-made movie full of untruths, but it does get the story across. Um, but in any event, I escaped that situation, and at like 11, I shifted from piano to guitar and had my first band like when I was like 12 or 13, doing covers. And then
Right.
about 15, started writing some songs. Um, and had a college band with the guy that I ended up being in Sammy with. And our first kind of like thing that we did was I had met Richard Hell in the city, and he took us to Chris Stein of Blondie's studio to record a 3-song demo. I think that was like the first real thing that we ever did.
Yes.
That was a trip. And then I ended up playing guitar for Richard for a couple of weeks in Japan at age 19. Also quite a trip. Uh,
Yes, it must have been.
Yeah. And then I kind of quit music for a little while. I decided I was going to only be a filmmaker. Ended up producing a film that went to Sundance and doing a bunch of other directing, and had a film in the Berlin Film Festival. I was like kind of out of music till about age 24, and then
Right.
I
So
started.
your was the film called Happy Hour?
That was a short film that I made that won the Berlin Film Festival when I was like 22. So that was kind of a shocker.
You
Uh,
are sort of packing a lot in. I have to say,
I was packing a lot in early on.
you
Yeah,
were,
I was
yeah, you were sort of. To be honest, I was just looking at the synopsis of Capturing the Freemans. I got a bit distracted with that because it's one of those
it's
films
very
that I could
distracting.
vaguely remember. And
Yeah,
yes, God, it's over
it's
20
great.
years old now.
Yeah.
And yes, I was. Yes, I got the synopsis. Not
That
good,
could be a
really.
whole show. That could be a whole
I
show. So,
could imagine it could be a whole show on that. Right. Okay. Yes, that kind of threw me a bit, really.
yeah,
But
it's like a true crime kind of thing. But yeah, so but I returned to music when I was about 23, 24.
so just pausing that. So
Yeah.
sort of 70, 89, which is kind of a big year because for me, like during that sort of 80s period, 83 to 87, the Smiths were like, wow, this is amazing. I'm, in the UK. And they kind of break up. The ecstasy comes along. There's a kind of another shift of music. Every 5 years, I think there's a bit of a new chapter because a new wave of 16-year-olds slightly come along and they want to discover their band. So you suddenly got, all those bands like 808 State and the Orb and Guy called Gerald, dance music started to come in. But then you also had the Seattle grunge scene, didn't you? Because Bleach came out in sort of 89. And I remember seeing, Nirvana and Tad on the same bill at the Art Centre. And then I saw Throwing Muses and the Pixies on the same bill at, the UEA here. So suddenly music started to sort of get excited. So was this a period that you were with Richard Hell, or you were doing your film stuff at this point?
In the late 80s. Well, I was in college, so I had my college band. That was at the same time as I met Richard, and started meeting a lot of people in New York.
Did you get auditioned for Richard? And where was Richard? And what's happened?
But what
Was it
happened with
Robert? What happened
Richard?
to Robert Lloyd at this point?
Well, so Richard had not been playing music in a while, and he was actually kind of making some films as well. I met him. He was a friend of my brother's, and I went over to his house with my demo tape and asked him to produce it, and he said yes.
Was he a
So,
scary chap?
yeah, yeah, he was. My brother told me I shouldn't go over to his house.
Right.
That could get ugly, but no, he was nice to me, and he liked the tape. I'm not totally sure why, but he liked the tape, and we spent like a few days at Chris Stein's studio in Tribeca, and at the end of it, he said that he had gotten. Well, he kind of said if I ever play again, it'd be fun to have you play guitar, and so I was quite blown away by that, and then it turns out he did get an offer to do this like big tour of Japan. He was popular there, so. Um, I left basically left college to go do that because how could you not?
Yes. How many dates did you have, and how
It
long
was
was
in
your?
7 cities in Japan, and,
That must have been an amazing culture shock.
it was pretty wild, yeah. I never got back to Japan. Well, maybe once I've been to Japan, but, it was, uh it was pretty fun just being in Japan, period. But they loved music there, and they loved Richard, and so it was some big shows,
Did
and
you play Blank Generation?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I'd grown up with that song and those songs, so it was a lot of fun. And the other guitarist was Ivan Julian,
Oh, yes. He
who
co-wrote it, didn't he?
he was, well, I don't know about the writing, but he was on the original albums with Richard, and so that was kind of wild to be trading solos with someone like Ivan Julian. He played on Sandinista, the Clash record.
Yes.
Oh, it was, yeah, it was an experience. It was trial by fire because it was really my first tour ever. And
Yes.
I would say, you think when you do a tour like that, like every tour is going to be like that, and it's not.
No, no, it's probably you
So
went in high, didn't you, on that
I
one,
did. I
didn't?
went in high, yeah. Um, but when we got back into it a few years later, yeah, things kicked off pretty quickly actually with Sammy.
But how did you just kind of, because when you just slip in, you make a film and it wins this kind of film festival in Berlin, I believe. Um, yeah, how does that sort of just happen? Because that's, it's not the easiest
Well,
thing to sort of, because I would imagine your head could have got a bit sort of, wow, this is rock and roll, man.
yeah,
I've
well,
made it.
things were kind of, it was
Was
mixed.
Johnny Thunders on the scene at that stage?
Oh, Johnny Thunders. I
What?
never met Johnny Thunders,
No?
but I know Richard. You know, started out with him. Um, Yeah, I never really crossed paths with Johnny Thunders, but oh, we played that song "Hurt Me" though in Japan.
Right.
That is a great song. Uh,
Yes. Uh,
yeah, so we did play one of those songs that they had done together when early on. Um, but yeah, that period in the late '90s. I mean, I was pretty into the. I mean, Nirvana came a little bit later for me. I think I was already like I was very attached to like the Husker Du, Dinosaur Jr. Um, um, thing.
I have to say, he has. Look, I did an interview with Greg, and I was a bit embarrassed because I used to pronounce it slightly differently. I thought, shoot, that's embarrassing because they were one of my favourite bands in the
Yeah,
80s, and I just thought they were, Candy Apple Grey. I mean, I
yeah,
quite like Warehouse, though the production of it sounds really quite tinny now. But
right.
and I loved the Bob Mould solo albums and Sugar.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, we
but
were
I
pretty into that stuff. Yeah,
and they do an amazing version of 8 Miles High, which is just incredible.
yeah. That was one of the biggies. Yeah, so after that, I took a little break.
You write this film and direct it.
Which one?
This one called Happy Hour. No, this
Yeah,
is a short.
that was a short film I made in college, um, with my friend Santo acting in it, and he's always been kind of like a muse for me. He's been in like a lot of my films, and he sometimes is in music videos, and he just played harmonica on stage with us for a song in New York for a laptop show. Um, yeah, it's just a short film made in the East Village in the early '90s, and it was something I made as my college film, and but then it had a nice little festival run, and then in Berlin it won Best Short Film, which was cool. I think they gave it to me because I showed up.
Right.
I went a long way, so
Yes, that would have been
that
unfair.
can happen. Yeah.
So that was 93. And then do you then sort of, Sammy becomes a serious proposition after that?
Well, we had recorded like the first four Sammy songs before before I went to Berlin, because I remember in Berlin playing it for City Slang, trying to get some interest and putting it out. In the end, Steve Shelley from Sonic Youth put it out on a label called Smells Like Records.
Yes. So that
Uh,
was Babe Come Down.
yeah, and that song, got a lot of attention in the UK. We came over, we opened for Beck, um, a few shows, and then we ended up playing. That's when we did the Peel session. Like the first Sammy single came out, and we did a Peel session right off the bat.
Yes. So this was is 1995 is your Peel session where you do Babe Come Down, Inland Empire, Slim Style and Trick.
Was it 95? God, I feel like it was earlier, but maybe
The
it wasn't.
7th of January, it
Yeah,
says here.
I guess so. Yeah, because 94 is when it came out, I guess. Yeah, so 95. Yeah. Yeah, it was a crazy trip. We played on The Word. Do you remember that TV
Oh,
show?
yes, with Christian. Oh, no.
Yeah.
That was pretty wild. Was Katie Pluckrick there?
I don't know. I don't
That was
know.
pretty. I mean, it was a very hedonistic time, the 90s, wasn't it? There was like
Yes,
the
it
80s
was.
was kind of, I don't know, from my memory, there wasn't a lot of money sloshing around, but the 90s became very hedonistic,
Yeah,
ending with Woodstock 99, which is
right.
quite an extraordinary experience, isn't it?
Yeah.
It starts with sort of angst-ridden young men and then ends up with these kind of, as you would say, you would have gone to the other side. Your jock side would have come out by then, wouldn't
Right. Right.
it?
Yeah. Um, the Word was a hedonistic show, and we yeah, I think Beck was supposed to play it and didn't backed out because they wanted him to shorten one of his songs. I don't know. There was some little controversy. Anyway, we got thrown into it, and the next day after playing The Word, it was like life was different, right? Everybody knew who you were. Everybody knew all the words to your songs. I don't know. Life was so different back then. It was like you played once on TV, and it was like because there was no internet, so everybody was focused on these shows and these. There was less to do, I guess.
Yes, there was less gatekeepers, but those like we had John Peel, so that was like this beacon that you'd all just go towards. And obviously the
Yeah,
mainstream charts were there. You had in the late 80s you'd had Bon Jovi and hair metal and all that
yeah,
kind of sound. But again, that would have been daytime radio, and then sort of people like John Peel were the Yes, the ones that all us kind of angsty little kids went to and wanted our alternative music scene of some
yeah,
descriptions.
yeah.
But he played lots of other music. He played, African reggae, dub, Bulgarian folk, Napalm Death. One of his shows featured all this, didn't it? And
Yeah,
the odd obscure blues track from 1950. So
yeah.
it was very lucky. But because as you know, the UK is a tiny little place, and
I know, I love that about it. It was
and
like,
every town and city would have an alternative indie night of some description, or whatever you want to call
yeah.
alternative. So bands could get their little transit vehicles and off they would sort of trundle around.
Oh, it was nice.
Each
We played
city.
that show. We played the TV show, and then the next day we went up to Manchester and just like had the greatest show, like packed, and every kid knew the lyrics and sold all the merch. It was just one of those you know, instant fame moments that you sort of like dream about. It was really fun.
Yes, I would imagine actually.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
your debut album did well, and that was on Smells Like Records.
Yeah. In England, it was on Fire Records, the label that did Pulp.
Ye- yes. I must
Uh,
admit, every I remember. Did you ever read the book by Luke Haynes, who was in various bands and now is collaborating with Peter Buck from REM? But he wrote a very good book recently. Well, probably about 10 years ago. Oh, Bad Vibes, I think it was
uh,
called actually.
uh,
And he mentions Fire Records in quite a sort of not a happy way.
I
Um,
know. I know. Yeah.
was your
I,
experience not great either?
you know, I didn't have much of an experience with them except that there was a guy named Billy Reeves, who was our PR person from Fire, who
Right.
was awesome and just still a good friend. Uh,
Excellent.
yeah. So like, I just came to London. I went to his 60th birthday. So I have this like one friend from Fire Records, and I have this one friend from Island Records who's also like a you know permanent best friend. And so, I guess it could be worse. You get one good friend out of each label, and
Yes, well, that keeps a certain good memory going, doesn't it, at that stage?
yeah,
And I guess with Sammy, with the sound of it, you sort of slip a little bit into that world of Britpop, don't you?
a little bit. I mean, you
You
know,
definitely didn't sound like Soundgarden or Soul Asylum or Red Hot Chili Peppers. It was much more,
no, no. I mean, it definitely came out of the Velvet Underground, Lou Reed, Jonathan Richman kind of vibe. Got compared to Pavement a lot, which got pretty annoying after a while. Um, uh, but I think we had very similar influences as Pavement. So and they came out slightly before us. Um, so that there was the debut album, and then we signed to Geffen in America. We stayed on Fire in England.
did you get a nice advance?
It was not terrible, I mean, compared to now, it was really good. I
Because
mean,
bands had a lot of, I mean, I did an interview yesterday with a guy who's just done a book on My Bloody Valentine, and, Island Records were just giving them so much money, and they never, ever gave them any product particularly. So, but it was like
yeah.
amazing time of like, oh, here's another 100,000. Oh, here's another 50,000.
I mean, it was better than this time, I think, for people. I mean, I was able to quit my job at the restaurant, which was cool.
Yes, absolutely.
Uh, so, it was needed. I'll tell you that. At that time, it was like I had no choice. I had to get paid. So, um, but that was one album called Tales of Great Nick Glory that came out on Fire in the UK. That was 1996.
Yes.
And then we disbanded. So Sammy was really two albums.
Did you know when you were recording the second album that that was going to be it?
Um, no, I mean, when we recorded the second album, we thought it was for Steve Shelley at Sonic Youth. Like, we just thought we were continuing on with our indie rock life.
Yes.
We were not trying to really get signed per se. I was making films, and Luke was working in the music industry. So Sammy was like a fun project between two old friends. It wasn't like everything to us. Um, Although it was becoming more and more of a thing for me. And when we did the second record, I think we were just making another indie rock record. And Geffen heard it and wanted to put it out, and without making any changes to it, no remixing, anything. As Luke put it recently, like, that's probably never happened in the history of major labels, where they just like, this record was made in like 3 days,
Right.
um, at night, on a tiny budget, and they didn't change a thing. They didn't remix. They didn't want to do anything. They probably should have, but they didn't. So the record we put out was this indie rock record we had intended to put out with Steve Shelley. And then, in fact, Steve Shelley didn't want to put it out because he said it sounded too Bowie. And
Right.
I was like, is that a problem?
Is that a bad thing? Yes, I know.
Right. Right. Like,
What's your issue, Steve?
I was kind of excited. It sounded kind of Bowie, because before that I wasn't getting Bowie. I was getting other things, but uh, so it came out on Geffen. We did, a music video. It was short lived, basically, and Luke ended up kind of pursuing more of a music business career, and that's when I started Laptop.
You
And
went, that's it. I'm
yeah,
gonna be a solo artist from now on.
yeah, and that was super fun for me because that's when I started pursuing like the Eno, the Bowie, the more some electronic things. I was playing multiple instruments. I was starting to experiment with loops and samples. That was just kind of starting out. I got a laptop. I was creating music, myself. It was a pretty like inspiring period for me, and uh, did a song called "End Credits" that kind of like "Babe Come Down" immediately got. We put it on a tiny little label. This guy Dave Barker used to be a Creation. He had a little label called God Bless Records, and Steve Lamacq again. Steve Lamacq
Right.
times he's the one that broke "Babe Come Down." And this time he played "End Credits," and credits got as much attention as that other period, and so immediately I was coming back over there. It wasn't a Peel session, it was a Steve Lamacq session, but at the same
Right.
facility.
Yes. And it's the height of Brit-pop, isn't it? It's just like, people were getting into a lot of just vibes. I mean, it was just cool Britannic.
At that time in 97.
97.
Yeah, I remember Pulp played. They had a radio show on BBC, and they played "End Credits." I mean, it was "End Credits." I wouldn't say it didn't fit in with like the Brit pop thing, but
But
it had,
we had people like Portishead, didn't we, around? And
it was somewhere in between, like a Portishead and Brit pop. I would say what I was doing. It was like some mix of those things.
people were doing a lot of drugs during that time. So people were looking for different
Yeah.
soundtracks for their, drug of choice, weren't they?
Right. Yeah.
It's terribly
Uh,
important, isn't it?
yeah.
At that stage. So it kind
Yeah.
of, and the dance scene had sort of become so big, hadn't it? And then, trip hop had been sort of very trendy as well, and then drum and
And I was
bass.
using some of those beats at that time. I think I was definitely like kind of like taking things from different. I wasn't really fitting in with any of those different genres exactly, but I was sort of in between, kind of like picking and choosing and eating at the buffet, I guess. And that's when I signed to Island.
Yes. So end credits, how did that come about? What was this the one with the recording
Yeah,
from the answer machine?
yeah, the answer machine stuff. Yeah, I don't know. We were working on a 5-song EP for like 6 months. It was like the Flock of Seagulls record. You're saying it was like a lot of work. It was not. It was like the opposite of Sammy. It was like layering, and beats and samples and creating these like cinematic scapes. And we didn't have computers yet. We were using reel to reel tape, but we were trying to create this like loopy sort of computery sound.
Had you been influenced by people like the Aphex Twin and those
A,
sort
li-
of?
a little bit because I did a tour. Yeah, like at the end of Sammy, I did one tour of Europe and the UK, and I was starting to hear a lot of that sort of thing. Um,
Yes.
you wouldn't hear in America as much. So
No,
I
because
was
actually
getting,
Dave
I
Barker
was,
was because Dave Barker does glass records, doesn't he, as well? I think he had a connection with Creation, but I know
yes.
he's
Well, Dave Barker,
if you ever see pictures of him, it's always with Thurston Moore. I don't know why, but
I
Thurston.
know, I know. Well, Dave's a friend. Dave was at Fire when I was there, so he was around with the Sammy thing, and then he really helped me break Laptop because he put out end credits,
Yes, that's a big
and
one.
and
And your
he
next release was that on Fierce Panda Records?
there was another Dave release called "Give Me the Night," which was another single, and then the
And the,
third single was "Whole Wide World," a cover of the Reckless Eric song.
Reckless, yeah, who now lives in North Norfolk with Amy Rigby.
and he came on stage and did the song with me as Laptop,
My
around
God,
that.
that must have been fantastic.
That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. So, Fierce Panda put out that single, I believe, of Whole Wide World. Uh, and then Island Records got involved, and I did a single called Nothing to Declare, and then another single called I'm So Happy You Failed, and then Universal bought Island, and everything kind of got screwed up.
And I
Um,
guess this is around the same time that we had illegal downloads, didn't we? I mean, this is when the record industry suddenly panic.
yeah, probably. Yeah. Um,
But the
yeah.
album Guilt, the album Guilt comes out, doesn't it?
No, it didn't really come out. That's the thing.
Oh,
So when Universal bought Island, everybody at Island got fired, and I was kind of left like in limbo. Like they didn't drop me right away. They wanted to kind of like see how things went. So that album never really got released the way it was supposed to. Somehow I managed to get them to let me put it out on a small label like a year or two later.
was that
And
Trust Me Records?
yeah, so like opening credits and the old me versus the new you are like two records that like contain a lot of the stuff that I was doing for Island, but also some B-sides and some kind of like demos, and it's like a hodgepodge of some stuff that made sense as albums to me. Uh,
Yes.
so that's what those two records are. They're kind of like in the like the in the wake of that Island Universal thing.
Did you manage to have any friends from Universal?
I have there's one friend from Island who he ended up going to Universal in the transition, and then it didn't it eventually left. But uh yeah, I have this one friend from that period, from that label.
Did you feel like you lost a bit of momentum at that point?
Well, yeah, it really killed the whole thing, honestly. I mean, I kept going because I really wanted to get those albums out because I really liked the music. And then I did one more album after that with an American indie label called Gammon Records.
Oh, this is Don't Try This at Home.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and that was maybe 2002, 2003.
Yes, that's right.
Um, and then um, the laptop went to sleep, basically. I mean, I was playing a little bit in New York, I opened a club with Jimmy Fallon in the East Village, like a performance restaurant, performance space.
Right.
Mm. So I was kind of transitioning to, you know, something maybe that might make money as opposed to music. um, I just had a baby, Charlie, who's now playing with me.
Right.
So yeah, that was like 20 years ago.
It was 20 years, I know. And that was kind of Sammy laptop just went to sleep.
Yeah, went to sleep, and then like I've been opened some restaurant stuff and club stuff, and a lot of films along the way. But I didn't really do music until about 3 years ago. It was during COVID. At the end of COVID, I took a trip to this island called Nevis. Are you familiar? St. Kitts
No.
Nevis. It was a British colony. It's one of the British Caribbean islands. So I go to this island in Nevis, and I this funky little hotel on the beach with a beach bar, and there's a real music scene in the beach bar, and like I'm sitting next to this guy, and he's from London.
Hmm.
He's older than me, and it turns out that he was the drummer for Brian Eno on Brian Eno's first album tour, and Brian
Fantastic. What was
first
his name?
um, uh, Michael Desmarais or Damaris. Um, I call him Mike. Uh, Greatest guy of all time. And he was in a band called the Winkies,
Right.
that was on Stiff Records. Um, Also really very good. Um, anyway, Mike and I like became like fast friends, and we even like jammed in the bar with some Rasta guys.
Blimey. This is good, isn't it? This is a good vibe. Were you feeling a good vibe at this
It was a
point?
great vibe, and um, that we had this great trip, and then at the same time, I was like getting into Spain a little bit, and so the following summer, I found this studio in Valencia. Mike met me there, and some Spanish musicians joined us, and we basically like tracked like 70 songs in like 4 days. It was like everything from like the last 20 years just kind of like poured out. And that was sort of the making of this record. Um
Yes.
and then the next year I went back to Nevis, and I got a lot of the locals there to sing and play instruments on it. So that's why you'll hear like mandolins and like homemade banjos and like horns and things that like Caribbean sounds coming into this Bowie soundscape. Um, so it was a really cool, like international, global record starting to happen. And that really developed into the album, you know. So not only are there the 10 songs that are coming out in the spring, but there's another like 60 in the
God,
works.
this is a bit
So
like Prince on speed, isn't it, really?
it was really quite something. And then I got my kids involved. So my son Charlie, who's 19, sings with me on the record, and he's been singing with me live. And even my daughter, who's 13, sings on a couple of tracks as well. That's coming soon.
Yes. So at the moment, you've just released those 2 tracks, haven't you? This is
Yeah, the third one came out today, or comes out
right.
tomorrow. Sorry. Yeah, so we released a song called Weirder, uh,
Yes.
and then a song,
Additional.
Special Animals, um, and uh, and then a song tomorrow called I Don't Know, and there'll be another single in November, probably called Indie Hero. I'm into doing like a lot of singles because I'm a filmmaker, so I'm really enjoying like doing like a video for each song, and kind of giving each song like its own little cinematic universe.
Yes. So with Weirder, that got mixed by Mario, didn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Who did the remixes on some of Bowie's 90s albums, I believe.
yeah. I think he was working with Bowie a lot at the end.
Yes. God, I think he did. Was that somebody you'd already known for quite a few years or quite
No,
recently?
it came through my manager, who was someone I knew for a long time, but she suggested he mixed that track. That was great, great experience. Now, pretty good friends with him, and I'll probably work with him again on some other things. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was great. He really, I think he kind of trained with Tony Visconti or spent a lot of time with him.
He
So
probably has a very good CV, but yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
he must have had something for Bowie to entrust him to remix those 90s albums
yeah.
no,
He's
late
very
80s albums, which were a bit overproduced with the reverb and all that kind of stuff.
right,
So,
right.
that,
He's very good. He's very good to work with. So I can see why.
and did you get your label set up? Is this your label? Is this
This is my label. Yeah, yeah. I mean, after I think I counted once. I think I was like on 16 different record labels when you counted them all up.
Yes.
So I think if I can survive it, doing it as our own labels, kind of fun. And it would be nice to have other artists be on the label at some point.
It must be an amazing labor of love. Is this something that
Yeah,
you're
this has
sort
been
of
super fun. Oh my God. It's been more fun, I would say, than um when I was in my 20s. It just there's something about coming back to it, I think, and having more experience under your belt. I don't know what it is, but it's been really cool. And involving like new musicians because the live band is like these young London guys that I've met that are like more my son's age. So it's like me and all these like guys in their early 20s. So that's
excellent.
it has a fountain of youth quality to it for me. um, and then also bringing in, a lot of people from the past, to do special bits. Like, I don't know, there's a song called Confused that's coming out in January. That's like this sort of Jan 6 sort of, it's like end credits, but like for January 6th, it's
Yes.
crazy. It's very crazy. And I brought in like my 70-year-old brother-in-law on that record to play keyboards, and he's brilliant. So it's just like it's got a lot of generations going on here, and a lot of nationalities going on here. It is truly like this like global, all ages um, kind of record and kind of experience. It's fun.
Yes, because there is. I just was looking at your credits. Actually, you do work. You are sort of your network of people is quite extraordinary. Because there's also another guy that I interviewed a couple of years ago from LA called Dave. Is it Trumfio?
Oh, do you
Who?
know him?
Yes, because he was in this very short-lived band called the Pulsars, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah. See, he mastered it. Yeah, yeah.
And I think he's got this very amazing setup in LA, hasn't he?
Yeah, he
Studio and
does.
accommodation and stuff like that. So again, was this somebody you knew from your past, or was this a recent person?
Luke suggested I get in touch with him, and he's been great. Yeah, I know it is a quite a yeah. There's so many credits on it. It's just like it's a lot. There's a lot of people involved, which is funny because laptop. It's very much me. It's very solo. I'm playing a lot of the most of the instruments, honestly, and I layer my vocals. It's very much like a guy in his house, like going crazy, but I have brought in a lot of different characters into it, which is a nice thing.
Because there's one thing I noticed with the kind of the punk, post-punk period in New York in the late 70s compared to the UK was that there was a lot more kind of jazz or world music kind of rhythms or styles that the UK didn't, that went back to much more basic rock, pub rock really. And some
Well,
of it,
I
like
did. It's funny you say that because I did draw a lot of inspiration for the record from that period of time and Compass Point Studios. I don't know if do you know what that is. Have you?
no.
So, so Compass Point was a studio in the Bahamas where a lot of people went down to. It actually was owned by Island Records.
Oh, I think there's been a film, hasn't there?
Well, there was a film about another studio in Montserrat, which was called Air Studios, which was the one the volcano buried. That's where the Police and Elton John did a lot of work. This studio is where the Talking Heads did albums 2, 3, and 4.
Right.
And the B-52s did the first 2 records. Grace Jones did a lot of records there. AC/DC did Back in Black there. Bowie and Mick did Dancing in the Streets there. I don't know. It's this crazy little studio that
Did they
nothing
have
lasts.
Sly and Robbie and people like that there as well?
It's possible. It's possible. I mean, the studio's closed now. Um, It's no longer. But it was a place where a lot of like American artists were going down, and British artists, I think, were going down to record and work with some local musicians, and so the stuff has a kind of world music vibe, like Remain in Light does. That's like the ultimate version of that.
Yes.
Rock Lobster was recorded there. It was just a place like a getaway, and I never got to record there, but I basically turned Nevis into my own little compass point. And
Right.
a lot of the tracks were done like in my hotel room on that beach where that hotel was. And I would bring like the local singers to the hotel room, and they didn't know what was going on. And like they didn't know this kind of music at all. And I would just turn it on and say like just play, or sing, and not worry too much, just get some stuff down. And it's amazing, you can't hear the ocean or the cows mooing or the monkeys screaming in the mics, but they were like right there. It's kind of surprising, but
Yes. I think
yeah.
Youth work, or does he have a studio down there as well?
Who's that?
Youth, who was have you come across Youth? I think he did U2, but he's just one of those crazy, excitable producers who was in various bands, including Killing Joke, I think.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes, but I think from talking to quite a few people, they're sort of going towards Spain as a place to become their home.
I I'm a little bit in that. I'm a part of that movement, I think.
Yes,
Yeah, I
I
ended
think
up. Yeah, I've
I
spent a
think
lot.
people are getting dissatisfied with where they live and think, actually Spain is great. It's got this great vibe.
Yeah,
Great,
yeah.
great cities, great, nice atmosphere. You got the beach, you got the countryside, and then suddenly there's all these musicians. But they're,
The
yes, so
studio in Valencia is fabulous. It's like, and very inexpensive, and just so much fun. I mean, I, I want to go back, and do some more recording. Um, but yeah, it's pretty fun. I mean,
yes,
it is fun to record in like tropical places and warm, fun places, obviously.
I would imagine. So you've got most of the material recorded now, or are you in the process of mixing it and
Well, the 10 songs for the album are pretty done, and the album will come out in May. But there's probably another 6 or 7 that are done for the next album, so I probably just gonna keep rolling out song after song. Um, and then, like I said, there's another, like, 50 or 60 left, so, it's gonna be a if you like Laptop, it's a good situation.
yes. So is it the
Um
case that you've got some live dates or going to potentially play some live dates?
Um, so I'm gonna play October 20th. David, I have let me see something. I have some guests that are arriving here.
Yes.
Can I tune back in with you in 5 minutes?
Yes, I'll hit pause. Wait a minute.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
Sorry, I had to jump.
Yes, that's fine.
Did I mess up your
What?
flow, or
No, God, no. Because I
can
think
I edit?
just
Yeah,
generally, I mean, we're nearly there actually on
I
that
know. I'm
front.
sure it's been longer than you expected.
No, it's been a fascinating journey actually. But so basically, we got the singles coming out this autumn. 3, we got 2, we got a third. Any more? Oh yes, you were talking about the live date, weren't you? The live
Yeah,
gig.
yeah, right. I'm sorry. Yeah, so I'm playing a show October 20th at the Waiting Room in London. Um, and then I think we'll do a tour, more around the album release in May,
Right.
when Charlie gets out of college. So we'll be complete and whole at that time. Um, so yeah, we have a single tomorrow. I don't know. A single in November, Indie Hero. This January 6th insurgency song called Confused in January. I'm trying to thematically place these songs on the calendar. Uh,
Yes.
there's a song called Always Something in March, and then the album will come in April or May. The album's called On This Planet because all the songs seem to be. I didn't really ever do this before, but I don't know. They seem to be very topical. The songs, they kind of like humorously address the issues of our time,
Mm.
and whether it's you know environmental or authoritarian governments. I don't know. They seem to be like really addressing things that are going on in a unique, funny sort of way.
Yes.
Not too
I mean,
precious, I don't think. On this planet in May, and then we'll do some sort of tour around that time.
do you feel as an artist then, because there was sort of, I don't know, it might have been unfair, but sometimes when the political landscape is kind of okay, there isn't that anger and angst. But do you feel as an artist now, sort of sitting down to create something, has it changed much how you sort of approaching that process?
Well, yeah, I don't think, I used to tend to write about like small stories and relationships and then this time around, maybe as more of an adult and maybe, having given rebirth to this during COVID and Trump and it's like this is like a different kind of record, lyrically. I just have sort of grown up and uh, I think I want to just say a little bit more about things than I
Mm,
would have when I was younger.
yes.
Um, and I think doing it with your 19-year-old son, I think also it pushes you in that direction because he's thinking about these things, and a lot of the songs we've written together have some of these themes. Uh, so it's been an interesting experience. It's a little different, definitely a
Yes, I
little.
would imagine. I mean, I guess any artist sitting down at the moment must be feeling a little bit different than they would have done. Not to pick at age, but just kind of the landscape has changed.
Yeah, the
So,
landscape is strange. Yeah, yeah, it's definitely kind of good for writing lyrics, I would say.
yes, I would imagine. And will your son be sort of not pushed, but is he going to be a little bit like the front man of the band, do you think?
Well, so far it's been kind of like an even thing. Uh, I realized it's very hard to think of another situation like this ever in alternative rock. I mean, I don't know if there's ever been a father son up front together thing ever.
No, I don't think there has
One,
been.
I mean, there's been like sort of, uh, there's somebody plays bass and somebody I don't know the singing together thing. I think is unique.
Yes, I don't think there's been anybody who's had that
No,
kind of.
no, it's very interesting, and especially sonically interesting because when I record, I've always you double your vocals or you that's just part of recording, right? Or you do octaves and so here I have like a genetic like copy. I mean, his voice is so similar to mine that we can do all kinds of stuff live that's kind of interesting, like like on end credits, for example, on the recording that I sang low and I sang high
Yeah.
together. So now live we can do that. And I could never have done that before. So there's a lot of interesting kind of like vocal things that we are doing live that just couldn't really be normally done. How can you double your vocals live, really? Without
Yes.
without your DNA standing right next to you. So it's been
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, it's been interesting.
Oh, that must be an amazing, yeah, it must be just not a dream come true, but it must be quite a nice project to be working on,
Yeah,
with so many little strands being pulled together. So,
yeah. It's a lot of subplots, I think. So
yes, well, absolutely.
yeah,
Well, I look forward to listening to the rest of the album. I've sort of just listened to the 2 singles so far, but
yeah, right,
they
right.
do sound good. But it'll be
Yeah,
interesting to hear the rest of the album when it
yeah,
comes out. But
yeah.
yes, well, I'll have a listen to the next album that's come out today, or nearly today. So yes, but look, I
Yeah.
think I've got quite a lot here, so it should be all
Yeah,
good.
do
But I'll
you
let you
edit
get
or
back to your
you
guests.
you
Actually,
let things roll, or do you edit things down, or
I
how do you
edit a little bit, but it's quite nice to hear the whole story, especially your process, especially with the early years with Richard Hell as well. It's always good. But Sammy, it's a fantastic story.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. All right, well, thanks for taking the time.
yes, well, have a lovely evening, and I'll let you get on. But
All right.
thanks again.
All right, maybe we'll see you in October.
Yes, I got it.
All
October the
right.
20th.
All right.
Okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye bye. And that is the end of the interview. A massive thank you to Jesse for giving me the time for that hour and a bit for the interview. This has been the C86 show, David Eastaugh. If you want to contact me, you can on any of the social media platform sites. Just do C86 show. All these interviews have been archived on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean. It's true. Have a great week. Stay safe.